Hi, Freya. What the heck's going on?
She's 10 weeks.
Hi, Freya.
Yeah.
Hi, Freya.
How many days after?
We got her on Saturday. Yeah, she's a very happy tail.
Hi, Freya.
Uh-oh.
Really? That's funny. Well, her half sibling is my sister-in-law's daughter, and his name is Odin.
I saw you say that on the
Cool.
So I was like,
Okay, I'm not surprised.
That's cool that you guys got sister puppies. We got sister puppies with someone.
Really?
Yeah, our friend got the sister of our dog.
That's so cool. Well, yeah, and it was a surprise letter, like they weren't expecting
Yeah.
puppies this year, and we were like, it's our chance. Yeah.
She's probably very excited and or nervous or both, but she seems to.
I think it's pure excitement.
She was like almost asleep in the car,
Yeah.
so she can get way more hype than this.
Yeah.
Freya.
Yeah. Little perch. I like your goat socks.
Thank you.
How's she doing now?
He's got into the new ones.
Excellent. Wow, nice.
We're talking about babies.
Yeah.
How's she squeaking?
Well, actually, no, she is doing great.
Yeah.
She basically wakes up at like 5:30, and I am so happy.
Yeah.
Gotcha. I will smell like cheeseburgers.
Switch over.
Oh, it's okay. I don't want to make you get that I know. She's really bad puppy breath.
I think you probably smell all the dogs in my office.
Oh,
yeah. We have so many office dogs.
She has learned how to sit in like, we got her on Saturday, she knows to sit in the 3 bodies. Yeah, amazing.
You already know that.
Yeah.
She was
She's
pointed could have been taking us in.
Wow, barely born.
I'm not sure what exactly that is.
yeah.
Did you think it's weird to think
But
Freya.
jump back to modern times.
Yeah. It's my sister-in-law.
It's Freya.
Physics.
My sister-in-law has her cat brother,
then I
and
just
his
broke
name
the
is
word.
Odin. So,
Oh, did you watch
therefore.
what's that one called, Movie Face and the Jared Harris Foundation?
Heard of it, not seen it. Just all right.
Alright. I mean,
Crochet.
I figured we'd be sharing, so.
That's the only reason we figured it wrong.
The actor who played Crochet?
Yeah, Jared
Okay.
Harris.
Oh, super. Oh, she's okay.
She's a little crazy, too much stuff
We
going on.
want to move on to the next person.
No, I went to hold on to it.
She can. She wants
Good.
to belong. She's a little bit. Thanks for letting us bring her. She does pretty good.
Mr.
Oh,
Tracy.
you said Freya?
Yeah.
I thought you said Fran.
I wonder why you're
And half Odin. What's the what's Odin's relation?
Odin is a
Fran
half
is cute.
brother. So in the mythology, they're husband and wife, so that's a little weird. But Fran is also the right name for a dog.
That's what I thought you said.
Road Bunny Rabbit.
I'm going to just have to call
As
you.
soon as Wesley gets in, then we can get started.
For some reason, I thought Bill was actually, or that guy was his name Bill, right?
Brent.
Oh, Brent Bill. I
Yeah.
thought he was actually there for a second. So that was like, that's
Well, he might. He's, I mean,
We're
he,
checking in the book, guys.
He's just very good at holding still.
I was like, oh, shoot.
he was invited to join us, so
Okay.
he just didn't. So,
Who was Brent?
and just an update
You
on
would be there.
Who was Wonder
And
Woman?
you would say, where's everybody around this
on his wife. She did pass away a couple weeks ago. So
Oh.
Oh
Brent's wife. So
Oh.
no. Does that mean he's coming to the Quaker camp?
no, I don't think so.
I'm just
I'm
being
not
rude on purpose.
gonna push.
Just kidding.
I actually think the
Did you read enough of it for all 2
student
pages?
ministries
No.
coordinator at Friends University is potentially going to speak. She asked for 2 weeks to
Why does that look like
say yes or not. So,
It isn't.
but she sounds excited about it. So I think it might happen. So,
Do you
We'll
know
see.
the dates for camp?
huh?
Do you know the dates for camp? Is that the October 7th through 9th?
I think it's 3rd through the first weekend. 4th through the 6th.
October 4th through
Yeah.
6th, gotcha.
I'm so guilty. I left our dog at home. She's still
Your
puppy
dog's
aged.
Yeah.
a bit of a big puppy though.
Yeah, she'd be freaking out. Anatolian Shepherd. And with excitement, freaking out with excitement, like, oh my gosh, let's play, let's run around.
Hey, Freya.
This is not gonna last long. We'll go with it.
Yeah, I can see already. So did you have trouble getting through this chapter?
It was
It
so
was
long.
very
Ah,
long.
51.
It was too long. I couldn't do it.
There's very little that I could actually quote. So
What, the whole thing?
I went to the additional stuff to finish out today, so. But let's go ahead and get started. Wesley can
I
catch
said stop
up.
doing that because I said there's on
What's wrong?
No, don't worry.
Oh,
Don't worry about it.
we didn't go ahead.
We didn't read that.
You didn't?
No,
They did.
I mean, I did like, I looked at it here and there,
Oh.
like I would go through, see like, oh, what did they got? I never, that's okay.
And she's always welcome to come back.
Alright, so holy silence. And today's chapter is a holy hush. So to non-friends, the difference would be that one group has a pastor and the other doesn't. To a Quaker, the difference is that South Starksboro is unprogrammed. No part of worship is programmed. The Spirit is free to move whenever, and Clean Friends is programmed. The Spirit moves through hymns, children's messages, sermons, and silence. What they share is their emphasis on silence. So, I thought that was a neat, that he tried to bring them all back together on that, so. And we do emphasize silence, even though we aren't 100% silent. It's very much a part of what we practice, so, as you might have noticed. Or not, I don't know. I like this, the scene about the kid that is coloring and then asking the question, why is it quiet?
It must have been his first day, I guess.
It's quiet because Jesus is here. I wanted to say, I didn't hear what his grandfather told him. It was enough for me to know that this boy had heard the silence and recognized that it had a quality that set it apart. So, a lot of times, especially newer people will think that it's done or something like that. How many of you have seen guests walk out during the middle of open worship because they don't understand what's going on? So I try to talk to them before we start and tell them what to expect. So, but anyway, then he went into the silent practices, or silence practice. Number 1, as you move through this day, look for places where you might be quiet. Don't look for absence of sound, but rather look for moments or space, even or especially interior spaces, where you can enter into some stillness that will bring you a sense of the reality of divine presence. So do you have a place where you go that you can be still?
probably rely on any specific place.
or practice, I should say. Suggested while you're driving, while you're doing dishes or something like that. Usually no one bothers you when you're doing dishes because they get asked to help, so it's a good place.
Good fun.
If you bother me while I'm doing dishes, I definitely will ask you to help because I don't want to be doing the dishes in the first place. 'Cause I really don't like doing dishes.
I like this just because it always reminds me of Brother Lawrence and his book, Practicing the Presence of God. People would travel around just to watch him wash dishes because of how he experienced God's presence.
Look at him wash that pan.
Yeah.
Yeah, it doesn't have to be a place in particular. It could be an activity that you do that brings you stillness, where you can be not affected by everything else. So it can be a walk. In fact, it's good to walk and practice stillness. Practice awareness as well, but stillness too. So because walking is profoundly spiritual because it slows you down because you can't get it from one place to another quickly. So it actually stops your brain from going fast. And that's why Jesus walked everywhere. So it intentionally gets you to that slowing down phase. So, and we don't walk anymore, so, or very rarely. If we walk, it's short amounts of time and for certain reasons. Usually to our car, so we drive somewhere else. And so, walking is a very good form of stillness. So to see times throughout your day to be quiet, or to get quiet. See if you can bring to silence the other voices that seek out, by seeking out the one that is filled with love, caring, beauty, persistence, rightness, a feeling of harmony with what you know of God, a call to the heart of the divine. So, as we practice silence together, have you noticed the first few times for the extended period, it was other things to get a little more control of that? At times you can't, but at times you can notice. And what he's saying, when you practice in silence, make an intentional effort to focus on the loving part, the caring part, the beauty part, the persistence part, the things that we know of God. Focus on those, and more likely you're going to hear the voice of God in some way, because you're shutting off yourself then. Pay attention to those times when your heart and thoughts turn to someone you love dearly. Consider which of those same things can be prompts for a time of divine intimacy. What might be the promptings of spiritual love occurring in your heart? Trust them as the God or the love of God breaking through. So often when I'm in silence, somebody's name will come to mind, or their face will come to mind. And I know that I should start praying. So there are times where I wake and woken up in the middle of the night with somebody on my mind, I will start praying. So I knew when my grandpa had a stroke, because I heard his voice calling calling me from upstairs, yelling down at me. It was so loud that I actually walked upstairs to see if Bob yelled at me because my grandpa and Bob have a very similar voice, and he was asleep. So I called my mom, and she said, "Yeah, he just had a stroke." So it's weird, but I knew and drove out that morning, and he recognized who I was. So he didn't last much longer after that, but it was interesting that
She needs more. Sorry, I'm just.
Trust them as the love of God breaking through. Why did you just have that prompting of love inside of you, Tracy?
probably because I have a fan blowing on me because it's hot in here.
And also, I know that that's how they get regularly
I
good.
feel like that last practice really speaks of how, like, loving each other, Jesus plays the door. Like when we feel love for each other or thoughts about each other, even like wondering, oh gosh, what am I going to do for them? What am I going to cook for them for dinner next week? God, a big part of that is actually God loving and you participating in the divine love that is for your family as well. And I think that's part of what he was saying back there on the practice number 3 is like recognizing God's love moving through you.
Yeah.
And trusting that, like, oh shoot, I just thought about my wife. Well, gosh, that's because I love her and God loves her, and I'm grateful for her. I think that, and I should go to the stop and get her Coke Zero. Of course, that's what that means. So, yeah. And like loving your others, a lot of times, like I don't know, for me, experiencing God always like comes from gratitude and or at least it starts there a lot of times. So gratitude for your loved ones is a great way to then expand that gratitude.
It is one of those things that you're focusing on the good. You know, Paul says focus on everything that is lovely. You know, meditate on those. And that's what Brent's also saying is focus on the things that you know are of God. And that sets your mind in a place where you can hear him a little more. Well, our family and the love that we have for our family is a reflection of the love that God has for us.
Yeah.
So it's not uncommon for those that we care about to be very much front and center in how we interact with God. So
Don't feel like you're failing in silence just because you're whatever. Instead, be like, maybe God, maybe that person keeps popping up in God's head. You know, it's not just your head, but that person popping up in yours.
So practice number 4, and it has 3 parts, because it's a good practice, I guess. Do the things you can to clear away noise. Do this intentionally. Create space for silence, both physically and inwardly. So what are some of the things that you have to be aware of that will consume your time and your attention that you have to intentionally quiet?
Your cell phone.
Yeah. I mentioned it on Sunday. I can't watch news because I will be sucked into it and I will not shut it off all day. And this past week, the website that I work on for the state of Kansas wasn't working, so I sat there waiting 20 minutes for the page to load, watching YouTube videos, because I had to sit here doing something, and then all of a sudden I was in this cycle of watching the news, and then it got in the way of doing the things that I should have been doing. So, and that's how we teach our kids as well. Do what you have to do first, then you can do the fun stuff. Many of us have parents that said that to us. I didn't listen to them, but they said it to me. So the second part of practice number 4, do a little spiritual multitasking. This one actually surprised me. By that I mean practice silencing yourself inside while you're busy and noisy outside. While your brain is busy with the meeting or whatever is going on externally, let your heart settle in on the inside. You may only be able to achieve a moment of holy silence at first. Don't despair.
Slight typo there.
Yeah, I don't even know how that typo got there. Because they copied and pasted it. So,
Control C.
maybe.
Just joking at it.
That's actually quite likely.
It is slightly,
Oh,
but
double C entry.
yeah, I don't know how I would have put it
that's
right there.
Control V though. It should be a V.
Yeah.
I feel like it's
Typo detective.
And now we'll not sleep for the next 2 days.
Perhaps.
But it's nice, you know.
Oh,
it's
God.
there.
Yeah, hey, I control F my way through life, so.
So I do spiritual multitasking because I will, especially when I was doing lawn care. I would always be doing multiple things at once, so I would be praying while I was walking. Mainly I was praying that, oh Lord, let me get up this hill, because it was hard. Pushing 80 pounds of fertilizer up a hill was steep. But yeah, we can do that to some degree and still be 100% aware of what's going on around us.
That's what that book I mentioned is about, a lot of the practicing the presence of God. Talks about how it is that.
So the third practice on practice number 4 is consider holding silence, as we Quakers say. Pay attention to whether you're grasping desperately for silence or allowing it to gently be held in your soul. So the important thing from that is don't try so hard. So whereas the people say let it be. So
In the Sesame Street, he'll say, let it be.
as you take time for silence throughout the day, pay attention to the sounds or distractions that seem to keep you from going as deeply as you wish. Especially focus on those that really annoy you.
It's not a little counterintuitive.
I don't like it.
Why do you think you would say that? Why would you want to focus on the really annoying things?
Because you haven't solved them yet.
Yeah, for me it's like the problem that I have no answer for, or the information that I feel like I need that I have no right to, or
Sometimes when my kids are being super annoying, trying to ignore that, it's impossible. So
If you
that's very
silence
frustrating
that,
too. Huh?
If you silence that, I might
No,
have a
it's not about
conversation.
silencing it. It's about focusing on it.
Yeah.
And I do feel like that is something that sometimes can work. Is focusing on it. You just kind of let it. I don't know, like envelop you. And when you're a part of that, all of a sudden it is not so much. Like if you were, like let's say your kids are yelling and you're trying to focus on something else, and they're going to distract you. But if you were able to go yell with them and be silly with them, all of a sudden their annoying noises are fun noises. If you can somehow accept them as fun noises, even though you're doing something else, or if you can even really focus on it and join in the fun noises, it transforms it from annoying to fun.
Surrendering to it,
Yeah.
as opposed to fighting it.
As much as possible, if you, to the point of being a part of it, or at least like smiling at it somehow. By some miracle. Yeah, surrendering to it. Sometimes it works for me, every once in a while.
He said, what might God have to teach me or remind me of through the noisy annoyances? So, when Albert started school, all of the kids in his class talked in baby talk. I hate. He never did. Even when he was a baby, he talked like a normal human being. And he went to school and he started talking like his classmates. And he still does. And it really annoys me. I've had to stop and think about why does this bother me so much? And it's 100% because I can't understand him. I'm half deaf. When he talks that way, I can't hear the differentiations between the letters and everything, so I can't understand a thing that he's saying. He might as well be talking Greek or Russian, because I cannot communicate with him.
Perhaps Japanese too. I know you can at least speak some.
But I can almost guarantee you it'd be just as annoying if you say him.
Oh, I'm sure it probably would be,
Yeah.
but for me, that's
the defining
why it
point.
was annoying.
Yeah.
So it reminds me I have to
It's
be
a lot
more
for me as
intentional
to
on listening
have that problem.
because I will miss things. My wife does the same thing, so she has
Talk to the baby
this.
voice too.
No. She has a way of trailing off at the end of a word.
Oh.
You do.
So, and then when I ask her to repeat, she repeats the first part louder and trails
Does
off.
it again,
Trails
yeah.
off even quicker.
Like some
And
sort
it's
of
like,
session for you.
I'm just
Maybe
saying
you do the
that.
things that annoy them. They do practice fine.
So I have to remind myself not to be annoyed, and it then reminds me to be more intentional in listening. If I hear somebody speaking, turn my attention towards it, because I do have a weakness in that area where I can't hear. I literally can't hear. So, and that also leads to why I don't like crowds and stuff like that, because I can't hear anybody. So I have to be intentional to make sure I go to game night, even though I don't want to be around crowds,
You have to
because I can't hear.
when you're around a bunch of people and they're all talking at once. You have to zero in on one
Yeah.
voice or another, and it's hard to do that when they're all talking at once. Honestly.
Yes.
It's hard enough normally to do that.
So how can I take the distractions into the silence with me and use them as a way to center into communion with God?
I call it.
Oh, you're fine.
You're fine.
It's one of those distractions that help us commune with God.
It was a distraction I saw coming, but
Yeah.
I planned for it.
How can I turn the disturbances into blessings? Blessings of connection with nature, with other people, and with God.
Sometimes I just like think about like how, despite not feeling it or being annoyed or distracted, that has no bearing on the truth of my union with God, and that Jesus, the Father, Holy Spirit are right here with me, regardless. And so then it can kind of turn in when I start focusing on that, which kind of goes back to this first thing, is kind of turns the distraction to a reason to be grateful.
Mm-hmm. Think about what time or what times would be the best silence time for you? Notice I did not say most convenient. What's the best time? When could you get the most out of silent listening? When would holy silence refresh you the most? I tried to do the most convenient ones, and you know what happens?
She just did that.
I just go to sleep. Because it's the most convenient, I have the time to relax. So I don't sleep. So that's why he says not the most convenient time.
That's why all the contemplatives stood up against walls, so they're trying to pray all night long.
Yeah, that is why different positions are important. That's why a lot of people will kneel on something that's kind of uncomfortable so that it reminds them to, when they start focusing on the discomfort, then they can turn again. Not that I think we need to be
You're not saying flagellation.
no, but sometimes the most comfortable isn't the best thing for you.
Maybe take a.
You would not believe how getting cushions on pews was a major issue among friends because it was too comfortable.
Yeah.
So,
On the program, that might have been a problem. All of a sudden, people are like, man, this feels good, and they're sleeping. Compared.
People spoke out of the silence just to get a break from uncomfortable seats.
Out of the silence.
Possibly. Of course, then there was that squirrel with the self-righteous Baptist church.
after you've had some time to sit with a query, begin to actively create or go into your silent sacred space. Tracy, you might have to translate that for everybody.
When you begin to begin,
Being
that's actually
actively
a song, but whatever.
begin to actively create or go into your silent sacred space. After you've had some time to sit with the query, begin to actively create or go into a silent sacred space. Okay.
Once you comprehended the question,
Yeah.
go to your thinking space. Put on your thinking cap. Have fun.
So the query is just a spiritual question to kind of usher you into silence. So once you start with that, let yourself go with it. Why is that important? Why am I even thinking about it? And the Jesuits, they'll ask you, is it bringing you closer to God or is it drawing you away from God? So, and why is that? There's a reason the Ignatian spiritual exercises were so popular. It's because it's almost like therapy. So it helps you get back to where you think you should be. So imagine that you have an appointment with your spiritual physician. What symptoms are you presenting? Fatigue, confusion, anxiety? Write them in your journal or on a plain piece of paper if you don't journal, or just think about them if you don't even write. Then take your symptoms notes into the silence. When you're ready, share them into the silence. Next, listen for the diagnosis and treatment. Have you ever tried that?
Yeah, that's pretty common practice among Christians, and
Journaling, yeah.
so it makes it I don't know. There's something about it, like writing down God's response to you. It's just makes it a little bit easier to distinguish, perhaps, from what you would call your own thoughts, imaginations. So that's pretty helpful sometimes.
As you settle into holy silence, let your spirit ruminate on a powerful soul refreshment you've experienced. Engage the holy in a conversation about how those elements might be brought into your holy silences, especially during the times you need refreshment and renewal the most. So why would that be something important to do?
Oh, remembering your experiences with God. Something cool.
How often did
Refreshing.
God tell Moses and the Israelites to remember? That's what all of the holidays were for. Remember what I did. Remember what I did. Remember what I did. Remember what I
Remember
did.
Sabbath.
Remember who you were. Remember what I did. So it's not good to dwell in the past, but it's good to remember so that you can move into the future.
So we're not talking Hakuna Matata then.
No.
That's the swipe by the
Enter into silence and invite God to speak through the stillness about what things may need sifting. You might find it helpful to center by contemplating on a few verses. He actually said a verse. Psalms 139, I believe, is what he said. So,
Lectina Divina?
yo,
Lectio Divina? Close. Lectio. That was from day one, right?
over a little bit.
No, yeah, you did mention it. I
Yeah.
think it was on day one, though. I don't know.
I think
Day
it's
two,
when we
three.
did Dark Night of the Soul. So day third week.
It's a good memory.
I have a computer that has all of them. All but one, because I accidentally deleted one. So
No. Did you
Unmute
control
it,
C or
unmute it.
something?
I did not do Control
I'm
C.
just kidding.
I did format the disk.
Oh,
This is when I was trying to. I had to reinstall all my operating systems on my computer, and it was not very fun. Spiritual examination is one goal of holy silence. Do I see my time, talents, energy, and money as gifts from the divine? Do I buy more stuff because I need it, or to impress my neighbors or myself? Do I eat too much so I feel less empty inside? Am I truthful at times? At all times? I am at times.
It depends on what part of the spectrum you're on there.
Do I treat others fairly when I deal with them? Do I recognize the needs and the gifts of everyone in my life? Even that really annoying relative.
It's probably the easiest practice of all. We all do it 24/7.
So, but as we're examining ourselves, are we being truthful about it? Or are we being judgmental or condescending, or because humility is honesty. It's not thinking lower of yourself, it's thinking of yourself in the right light. So if you do have a gift, it's okay to say, I can do that. I'm more than able to. And do it. And it's prideful if you don't admit that you can't do it and can't release it to somebody else that can. So sometimes we don't think of it that way because we think asking for help is it's prideful not asking for help for one thing, but we sometimes think that you're imposing if you ask somebody for help. It's not the reality. It's actually giving them an opportunity to. So when I first came here, everybody had all the suggestions in the world about what I should do and all the ministries that we should be a part of. Why don't you do this? Why don't you do that? Why don't you do children's ministry? Why don't you go into the middle school and teach the kids? Why don't you? And it's like, yeah, go ahead and do that. In fact, I will support you in that. It's clearly something that you think is important. Go ahead and do it. So, people stopped suggesting things. But we were able to focus on what we needed to focus on. Because if it's something that you really want to do, and you think is important, then you'll do it. But if it's just something that you think should be done, but you don't want to do it, then it's never going to get done because nobody wants to do it unless they're called to. While trying to clear your soul of any preconceived ideas of what you might need, open to the divine wisdom by praying, "Give me what I need, just what I need." Preconceived things are a big issue when it comes to silence. Usually pastors struggle with it because am I saying what I'm supposed to say or am I just saying what I want to say? And am I saying too much? Because you can't say too much. That's why the proverb says a wise man is, or everyone's wise until they open their mouth.
I thought you were going to quote that gay card on Sunday.
The what?
I thought you were going to quote the gay card.
Oh, no.
Oh, yeah.
As the dog returns to its mom.
No, the one about shutting your mouth.
Oh.
Be quiet. Shut up.
Shut up and let that be your wisdom or something.
Yeah, that's. We had a few about that. We had a few about that at the beginning.
So you always think you know what you need, or you get to a certain point where you feel like you know what you need. But sometimes that's not truly the answer.
Have you ever really, really prayed about something? Like, I absolutely need this to happen, and didn't get the answer that you thought you wanted? And then about 10 years down the road, you realize that, oh yeah, I did get exactly what I need. Because we don't always understand what our need is. So this goes into queries a little bit. Since Quakers don't have a formal creed or a prayer book against which to measure faithfulness, we developed the concept of asking questions of ourselves individually and corporately as a gauge of faith and practice. This method began in the 17th century and with the now quaint name of queries. Queries are meant to be a form of self-guided self-examination, not an outward set of rules. In that sense, there are no outward defined correct answers. Rather, the queries give us a framework within which we can look at and consider prayerfully the direction of our lives and the life of our worshiping community. So, there's several queries in the faith and practice, 10 of them, that ask questions like, do you love God with all your heart, soul, mind, and spirit, and all of that? And your neighbor as yourself. And then there's usually a follow-up question. How are you exhibiting that in the community? Where you have to kind of go through and, am I just saying that I do it, or am I actually living it out? The one that really is a struggle is how are you promoting peace in your community? Because a lot of people can not join the military, but are you actually promoting peace in your community? To the continued warfare within our cultures.
Is Paul Buckley, is that his name? Paul S. Buckley? An author? I might be wrong. I feel like you would know the name if I said it right. Anyway.
William?
No?
No.
It's Paul something. He wrote Primitive Quakers and Revived or something like that. Anyway, he talked about, he felt called to vote for Barack Obama to win a black president, and then, come to find out his rates of bombing people and deporting people and how that made him feel like he contributed to that.
There are a lot of Quakers that won't vote because they know that it's almost impossible to not do something war related. So
That's why you just vote for someone who's going to lose, like the third party.
if you want to know who's going to lose, ask me who I'm voting for, because I have never voted for the winner, ever. Never once.
So sorry, Jared.
Most of it's because I voted third party, but the ones in the primaries that I voted for, I never voted for the person that actually won. I voted for the person who should have won, but in my opinion, but yeah. Which one?
Let's just start a Quaker party.
Queries are not unique to Friends, but we utilize them and have since the beginning of our movement. They assist us in quieting our spirit to center on God. If you want to know what a yearly meeting really believes, look at their queries.
It's helping me
Because
get
that's what's
closer to
important.
God because I focus on the pain. Sorry, Jared.
So when the yearly meeting's asking you to consider certain questions in your life, that's what they actually believe. So if you want to see what a Quaker meeting believes, look at the queries. Because they can put a whole lot of stuff in their faith and practice, but the queries are what they want you to actually do regularly. So, and I say that because this is what it actually says in our faith and practice about the queries. These queries with related passages of Scripture are intended to serve as a reminder of Friends' standards of moral and spiritual life. They should be read at least once a year in the local business session. Their use can help individuals examine themselves to see if their lives are consistent with Christian principles. Serious consideration of these questions should tend to promote the spiritual welfare of the church as a whole, as well as that of individuals. So not only are they good to read, but our yearly meeting has actually said you need to read them at least once a year. We're not doing so good this year, but last year we read one a month. So when we did Wednesday services, we would have a query discussion in between each of the study series. So, and you'd think you wouldn't have much to discuss after the first time through, but the second time through it actually got deeper. Third time through it actually, we were still talking almost 3 hours later. So it's because it's not just a yes or no answer. They are written in yes and no form. They really need to revamp them. But it is, if you actually go into how are you doing it, then it changes things. So if you want to know where the queries are, they're in chapter 5 of part 4. And we probably will discuss those in the future. If you don't give me a question to see by next week, we will. So, But I like the queries. They're really cool. And if you like queries, one of my friends wrote a book, Queries for Every Season, that I really encourage you to get. She's pastor at University Friends Church in Wichita, so
Okey-dokey.
you know where that is? Near
Like,
Friends University.
Yeah.
It's no longer part of our yearly meeting, but it was for quite a while.
Friends University.
It's no longer part of our yearly meeting.
Hmm.
They had dual membership and yearly meetings, so we said you have to choose one or the other. I was very upset at the elders for making me choose that because I used to go to University Friends.
I used to have to drill up in Wichita. That was the only reason I was able to make it to one of the yearly meetings. Because I was just down the street from it.
So, is there anything else that I hadn't quoted in this book that you wanted to discuss?
Did anyone read beyond chapter 6? I think there's like another 20 pages or so.
Yeah, there's a bunch of, I covered a lot of it, but
I didn't read it, but
yeah, there is a whole list of queries. There's like,
Yeah, I like the glossary
30
as well.
queries.
Like the Friends lingo. Friendly peoples.
that's in the Faith and Practice too, something like that.
The glossary.
Because we do use weird terms. Like weighty friend,
Query.
query.
For example, query.
I just love that one quote where he says, like, he's talking about how to insult someone who just spoke during silence. It's like, it's not a way that I would have put it. Or he said something. It was
Yeah.
he said it better. It was funny though. It's like, I need to remember that one.
That's in the spirit.
So in case you want
Passive
to,
aggressive.
well,
it's like how
Resilient.
Alan Hamada asked, responded when asked if there's anybody that could beat him, and he was going, and then he would start rattling off all these famous sponsors' names, and they were good for their time. I'm the upgrade of it, essentially.
Do you feel like you have a better understanding of what we're doing after reading that? And why we do it?
yeah, it's a good book.
And Freya understands correctly.
She's just not respecting silence.
Huh, she's doing pretty good.
Actually,
No,
she's just breathing on
She's
it.
heavy breathing, but she can.
That's how she's regulating her heat right now.
Yes.
Yeah, I would say that
It's okay,
She's
Fran.
very well
she's doing
behaved.
quite well with
Yeah.
this many new faces around and smells.
Yeah.
And
She's a howler.
so, any additional comments that you?
Not related to the class, no. After we're off the air.
I'm silently thinking of them.
So next week is finding answers together, and so far we have no questions. So I guess we've already answered everybody's questions.
Oh yeah.
What's that?
Should I just give you my list that I wrote?
I don't remember it right now. Dayton said she thought I had a question, but I can't remember my question, so I might text you if we remember.
Yeah, if you do remember, then yeah, the sooner the better. But I'll see if I can. If I can't get it this time, I'll do it the next time we have one. So, and then after that is Holy Expectancy. So. Now we have a big dilemma though. We're done with this book. What are we going to do on the second weeks?
Turn to WW night.
We can do another question session, or we can pick another book. And I could let somebody else pick a book if you'd like.
I like the silence song. I think this continuing. I would love to do that every week. Silence for an hour. Every 45 minutes. Every week.
Or every other 2 minutes.
Oh, I just had it.
Or yeah, I guess every other
Please
week.
share it.
The movie The Quiet Place.
Oh, yeah.
It's good practice.
Well, So I know it's about aliens, but now I'm suddenly picturing, instead of aliens, a bunch of angry Quakers.
That's what happens when you disturb the silence and don't make it better.
I'm just. That was terrible. I know.
The law is don't speak unless you can improve the silence. If you didn't improve the silence, then you are going to meet the wrath of the Quakers.
Or at least Mr. Boogie.
That one book, a guide to True Peace, pretty good. It's short, so 90-something pages.
You guys haven't seen Mr. Boogie yet.
No.
But I'm sure you have, right? Seen it at that movie night?
I think so, yeah.
I'd be interested in reading reports of George Fox's journals. Like maybe not the whole thing, but like
Not the whole thing.
I don't know.
Why not? Why not? It's only like bigger than the Bible.
But I think it could be interesting to talk about with the group.
So, yeah, if you all want to download that from Friends Library, then that way we all have the same one. And I'll think about what we do, but if we do that, then that's where I get it, just so we all have the same version. Because with the journals, different people exclude certain things that they don't think is important. So sometimes what I read and what someone from Friends General Conference reads isn't the same Fox Journal.
It's not what we want to do, though.
So
That does bring up the conversation we've had about whether the Bible is rang true, about how when there's variance in versions.
There's a question for
Sounds
next
like a
week.
good, question for next week.
Like even a single word, like instead of "and he was God," in some translations it's "he was a God."
They're all,
Single letter.
they're all,
Change the entire message.
they're all interpretations, not just translations.
in that particular case, they added a word that wasn't there.
What's he saying? Who did it?
Yeah, next week can you just talk through every single possible translation issue that I've ever written.
Tracy, I have a Bible, it's called the 26 Translation Bible. It takes every verse and where there's a difference
It
between
might actually
26
have marks
translations.
what
It shows you all the differences.
That's actually kind of interesting.
Yeah, it's cool.
I know that I've used the Blue Letter Bible website.
Of course, there is the internet nowadays, but
Yeah.
Just
I cheated.
so you know,
The
most
Bible's
of the
better.
errors are
The
when
Blue Letter Bibles.
scribes added something to explain and it got recopied, and most of those in the newer translations have been added to the footnotes. So, and no significant theological position in traditional Christian faith has ever come directly from those. Unless you think Mormons are traditional Christian faith, because they do use some of those.
Doesn't the that Quaker website have a trans or just what's the word where they take stuff from something
Transcribed.
where they just
they
take the
have,
good bits out of George Fox's journal.
Yeah, they have
Selected.
readings,
Yeah.
abridged.
So I don't know how big that one is, or if that's
Yeah.
we'll have everything we want, but they maybe skip too much stuff.
It's
Paste.
yeah,
Paste
it's
of it.
Yeah, I don't know how much it is.
most of
I-
what they
Control
have
V
the
menu
abridged,
right there.
but it's
I
just-
listen to it, so you could always just listen to it and put it on fast speed when it's getting boring.
Yeah, the Friends Library does have free audiobooks too, so everything that's
It's
on
free,
their website is you can listen to. So it's really quite cool. I actually sent them some money because as many as downloads that I had, I'm like, I should probably give you something.
Do you get
So-
like free shipping at Pendle Hill as a minister or anything like that?
Not that I'm aware of. Pendle Hill's not a Evangelical Friends publisher, so I don't get very much from them.
They don't think I like you.
I will get books from Friends United Press because I like them. I've had friends that are very high up in their organization, so
Give you discount codes and stuff.
no, they don't. Quakers are kind of stingy when it comes to things like that.
Didn't we literally invent the whole price tag thing to keep prices fair and such like that?
Pretty much, yeah. But yeah,
Instead of showing favoritism between customers and stuff, that was the concept behind the price tag.
Standardized.
So that's where price tag.
and that's why
Quakers
said we need to stop persecuting the Quakers, or they're going to take over our country economically, is because all of their businesses were so successful because parents could send their kids to the Quaker store with a set amount of money and they would get what they expect. Where if they send it to a different, less
They can change the
honest grocer, then they would get taken because they're kids and the kids don't know any better. So, yeah. Alright, so I'll think about doing George Fox's journal and see what we can do with that.
If not, I do have
The
this.
Miracles of George Fox is it's a really good book, but I can't find a place to get it. And the last place that I knew had them is sold out. So, because I never actually bought one of those.
I don't think I could find it for free, so I don't know.
I found a PDF about a book review for it, and then I started reading. I'm like, this is a book review. So they had a long excerpt of it, but then it's a book review after that. So, but anyway, that's all I got today. Because the chapter is only 2 pages, we can only talk for an hour. I tried.
You know what's amazing? I managed to interrupt him twice while he was reading a 2-page chapter.
Nice.
So
sorry,
I'm
we're
finishing
losing
his
the
last 2 sentences and then I'm going to take her on a walk.
Pendle Hill has it.
We don't order from them.
Yeah.
As long as it's the
Name
same,
is on, but on that.
if you get it from the same publisher, then it's not a big deal. But if you don't get it from the same publisher, they take out certain things that they don't think is relevant.
Well, I think I just never found it. All of it.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
I don't know if Chuck Norris's website has
Yes,
it
it drives me crazy at night time.
I turned it down. Oh,
Is that one of the
only,
things that annoys you?
only goes
Think
Well,
about
you can see it on his thumbs from over here.
You're tanning yourself.
I was like, if
skin
you're
cancer on your
right.
I mean, I had a phone for like 20 years, so I had to keep the brightness. How long I had it for? It was an exaggeration.
Alright, we'll go ahead and cut off the YouTube stream.
I had to turn the brightness on